So this is my this will be my post about all of the things I see right now in our community, the leather community specifically. As my disclaimer in all of this is saying that, to begin with, I'm coming to this conversation, this discussion with these things as pieces and components of who I am and what I do and why I belong here. I am a person of color. I identify as masculine of center or transmasculine, not a trans man though. I am twice a title holder, once regionally, once internationally. I am a presenter in our community and outside of our community. I mentor folks in our community. I am a boy, a daddy, a boot black, and I have prided myself on being a bridge for people in our community, outside of our community. I want people to have access to other people. The way the world gets better, the way the world works better, in my opinion, is we all get to know each other. As we get to know each other, we feel invested in each other's future, each other's well-being. That it fosters that sense of community. Also a huge fan of technology, so I love that technology can give us the opportunity to connect with other people we may not have connected with before. So this is a direct reaction to all the things that are going on with ILSb right now, and also a reaction, be it delayed or not, to the things around racism, transphobia, and those sorts of things that are raising their heads in our community. So, to be clear, I feel that separate spaces are not only a good thing. I think they are sometimes a very necessary part of our community. We all need our own little spaces to go back to and re-energize before we go back out into the fray with everyone else. That can be a lot for any of us. So having a home base with like-minded people is a really good thing, in my opinion. I don't see that as I always thought that was a pretty good thing. I am not here to argue whether you get to make the rules as the ILSb board or not. It's your party, your rules. I can respect that. I also want to put out there, definitely I don't agree with threatening anyone over this situation or any other situation. It never lends itself to anything productive or kind. It doesn't make any headway. And when we have been tossing around all these different words about integrity and honor, and if we can start with thinking about things as small as making, threats over the internet, pretending to be, like you're all big and bad, but in actuality, would you stand behind those words? If you saw this person face to face, not from behind a keyboard, would you actually be able to be the person that you tout yourself to be, and actually step to this person that way? What would be the point of doing that? Why would that even be something you think about? It's not cool. It's not necessary. Use your words, and use your words not on everybody else's pages. And this is where I step out on it a little bit, and I'm fairly certain that there'll be a little flack from this, but I'm okay with that. You can both come see me. Bullying. We can stop that too. It's all over in every community I know of. Teams are doing it, coworkers are doing it to each other, and we do it in our community. I was watching and reading people's pages and posts last night regarding this, looking on Facebook. Everybody has their own individual page on Facebook. It's their piece of real estate. It's their country. They can say and do whatever they want in their country. If you disagree with what they've said in their country, go to your country and make a post about it. Stop hijacking people's threads. Mara, Elegant, stop it. Nobody was hate mongering. I saw very well spoken, very well thought out, very heartfelt and personal things that were posted, and I watched bullying happen. I watched you pick apart people's personal thoughts, their statements, with like hyperbole and what if and what could have been, or are you saying this versus are you saying that? It doesn't matter. They're allowed to say what they want to say. Don't go onto somebody else's page picking fights. It's ridiculous. As someone who mentors newer people in our community, when people bow up and say, why should I respect my elders? It's really hard for me to plead the case when they can see that. What if you're acting that way, that's what you're going to receive from these people that are looking as we go. Both Mara and Elegant have been amazing people in my life in different points. Elegant was one of the first people to teach me about bootblacking and share her knowledge. I expect more from you as someone who's my mentor. And maybe that is unfair, but I'm just letting you know that's how I feel. I expect more than that. I expect more than you nitpicking someone's definition of what an ally is apart. That was rude and disrespectful. That was uncalled for. Mara, you went from place to place talking about hate mongering when there was no one talking about it in the spaces that I saw you mentioning it or picking fights towards people responding. You've known me since I was a wee boy in this community, before I barely understood where I was going. I've had the gracious hospitality of your home and the wonderful time to have your company. I expect more from you. If we're having these factions of things going on and we're talking about how people are not respecting other people and blah 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 blah, you have to give it to get it. And I don't think it's fair to expect newer people or lesser known or what have you to our community to look up to people that are doing things they wouldn't look up to outside of our community. I expect more. If people want that, you got to give it. While back to the ILSb thing, while it is definitely your party and you can make your rules, when change happens, it's probably a good idea to let people know fully. If you're not willing to put all of it out there, then maybe holding off until you're ready to put it all out there is a good idea. Jeffrey, I haven't heard from other people on the board. I just noticed that there was a post on your page about people physically, people threatening physical harm, and also you were upset that people didn't ask you, what your side of the story was. I feel like, again, merely my thought, I feel like when you put out a press release of some sort, that is your opportunity to calm the masses, to give people the information they need so they can digest the new information. Yeah, you can't make everybody happy. This is absolutely true. But to think that you could make a change as big as this to your event without there being a lot of fallout, I don't know how that wasn't planned for. It is my understanding that you guys severed ties, ILSb, the board, and that event has severed ties with its regional or some of its regional contest. If that is the case, and it seems that, as I understand it, it was very short notice. That's kind of rough. I have known people from various regions, various producers, because I've hopscotched around the country so much doing just the title holder circuit. I know the work, and I know you know the work. I know the board understands what kind of work goes into this, but if I am understanding things correctly, with short notice, there are lots of contests that have just finished, and people just send everybody to ILSb, only to be told that, you know, there's no longer a connection. They're no longer a feeder. I have sat on mock judging panels for contestants for your event. I have recommended contestants for your event. I have judged for your event. I have been din staff for your event. I did it because I believed in what it was I was seeing. I believed in the people that ran the organization and the people that were wanting to be a part of it. I recommended my friends and people I care for to run for titles in your system, because that's where they were, and that's who they were. And of all of the contests I knew, I honestly felt that these people would have the best chance to feel most comfortable and at home in your contest. I never differentiated whether they were a trans man or a cisgendered man as to whether I made that recommendation. To me, as an LGBT advocate and educator, I know that there is no difference. And I think part of the dust up that you may be getting is that it didn't come across like you understood that. You made drastic changes to an event that many men who identify as trans had grown to call home. So their friends, their loved ones, their supporters are pretty pissed off. Maybe not the best ways to express it sometimes, but it's a big deal. In case you hadn't looked outside of the bubble of the cisgendered, gay, white Leatherman, it's changing, and rapidly so, in the regular world. Trans rights and acknowledgement of people who are transgender, particularly, you know, now, is so high profile. To have this sort of thing happen in the scope of the progress that's been made in the last 2 to 3 years for transgender folks across the board, it kind of just spit in the face of every bit of activism that people have been doing. Because those trans activists are also leather activists. They're activists for gay men. They're activists for our community as a whole. So to be told by an organization that you dedicated time and energy towards, that you don't count as a man, is just heartbreaking. And it was wrong, and I find it a hard sell that you couldn't have imagined that this would be the backlash that you were going to get. And adding all of that to what's already happened in our community with the incident in Portland, and then with the IMSL and things that were going on, this was just like the icing on the cake. Unfortunately, Jeffrey, your face is the one that's associated with this. You know, when it says, you know, ILSb board, it's usually Jeffrey Payne N when I see it. So your face is the one I see involved with most of this. And when I see your face, and I could be wrong because I don't know anything about your background, you come across to me as a Caucasian gay Leatherman. I could be wrong about that. But if that is the case, and you are in a position of power, and you make a change to squash other people, to oppress someone else, this is what you've done. I know you may not feel that that's what you did, but you added another layer of oppression to a group of people who are already suffering oppressions on a daily basis. Just walking out the door is a challenge some days. So to be told that you're your place that you thought was your place is not your place, sucks. It sucks very bad. It's worse to hear it from, and then to have it come from the usual oppressing class. Yes, it's not your nature, I'm sure, to be oppressive, but that's the way it's coming across. It's just right now, and the way things are, and it's just adding another layer. It seems like there aren't cultural informants are important. When asking these questions about what you should do to change your event and how you're going to change it, perhaps you might want to gain some information from several cultural informants before you make that decision to do something. This is a tinderbox of things we've got going on in our community right now. And this was just like gas on just waiting to happen. So you add all of that with the whole Portland incident, and what comes up for me repeatedly is that there are people who made decisions in what they thought was the best interest of what they wanted to do, and what was, people that voted on it said, yes, this is a good idea. But I find that oftentimes that the people that are voting on that information, the people that are voting on that issue, are very similar. So it doesn't really give a good representation of what could potentially happen. Other voices are always needed in the conversation, even if it's just in an advisory capacity. And I think that could help prevent some of what's going on as far as people being so upset and angry, because this all seems to come out of nowhere in a very painful and very hurtful way. I know that I have trans friends that have been a part of ILSb's history and helped create and hold up ILSb as a model in our leather community. On the kind of side note on contest, I like contest. I know that there are people out there who think, or I have been reading over the past 48 hours, that there are people who think that contests are destroying our community, which I find funny because I was told at some point it was the internet, and then it was young people. And so everybody's got their opinions. My opinion about contests is that they are a wonderful avenue for people who have the desire to put themselves out there and represent us in the best possible light, to teach, educate, and share, to be a beacon for those people who are like them, but less like the people in our community. I feel like contests are important for that, because it gives people that opportunity to be that platform. So when people are coming into our community, they see something different. They have the opportunity to see themselves reflected in our community, and that's incredibly important, because if they don't see themselves reflected in our community, they're not going to stay. If they don't stay, we have no one to pass this information on to. We die, it's all over. So we have to make room for that, in my opinion. If you don't like contests, you don't have to support them. You don't have to be around a title holder. And I'm not really sure what kind of title holders people are running into. I know the title holders I know are amazing human beings. They have so much to share, and they want to share it. They're kind, giving, thoughtful human beings. So I'm always kind of baffled that response is what I get from people sometimes when they say something about a title holder or about contests. I think also it's an excellent way to network, to gain exposure and access to people. I mean, if I hadn't been a title holder, I have no idea if I would be connected to the people I am connected to now. My life wouldn't be where it is right now if it weren't for the people I know in the leather community who had my back, who had my best interest at heart, who taught me right from wrong. I am well-mannered. I defer to my elders. I'm a good kid. But I have to say, this is just ridiculous. This has gotten out of hand. Unfortunately, ILSb, you were just like the cherry on a really craptastic sundae. Just a little time and talking may have prevented this. Again, cultural informants are hugely important. If you only had one, then I think you need more, because you may have been given bad advice or you didn't get a good sample. I don't know. But it seems like these are very obvious things that could have been avoided, just with a little preparation. I'm not saying people's feelings wouldn't have been hurt either way. You can't please everybody with any decision you make. It's going to be a rare thing, if ever, that happens. But being able to speak in a language that informs people clearly what your intentions are is important. And none of that came through. Those may have been your intentions. Those may have been the things you thought about when you guys were sitting around and trying to make this decision about where to move forward, how to move forward with your organization now. Whatever you may have intended got lost in that translation. And unfortunately, part of that language piece, again, is, like I said, I'm not really sure your background, Jeffrey, and I'm sure there are people of color involved in the board. I haven't had an opportunity to research who the current board for ILSb is, so, but it was probably not the best choice of wording to use the word lynching or lynch mob. While I understand the gravity of the situation and what you were trying to convey, it was a really bad word choice. I know that people are like, oh my God, you're being so PC. It's not being PC. It's acknowledging people as you see them, as they choose to present themselves, acknowledging that you see those people in the way they are trying to show themselves and show up in the world. To say that, it's too PC to use a different gender pronoun or to use the right terminology, that, you're not going to go for that, that's unacceptable. You would not stand for those sorts of things being done to you. And people who have been oppressed are no longer sitting still and being silent and just waiting for you to get it. We're being in your face about it. The reason it seems so PC is because everybody is pointing it out. Every minority is hopefully being an ally to the other minorities. Some of us have so many minority components, it's ridiculous. So every little bit of that is important. If you're looking to have my money, my support, if you want me to be your ally, you guys have got to step it up. This isn't working. To just call it me being an angry black person, or I don't know enough about the culture, or whatever. Say what you want. I'm letting you know now. The reason this is happening so often, the reason you're hearing all of this when something goes on and doesn't get swept under the rug anymore, is because people aren't tolerating it. We're not having it anymore. I respect the people that came before me in this community. I wouldn't be the person I am right now if it were not for this community. But there has got to be more care and thought taken into account with our interactions. You can't just brush it aside. You can't just laugh off or yell off or pretend to be all huff and puff and upset because someone calls you on it. I thought that's what we were about, helping each other grow and learn and evolve as individuals and as a community. I can't understand why that seems to be different for just a small grouping of our folks. We're all supposed to learn this unless you are a different echelon. And that's just not going to fly anymore. People are tired of it. It is unfortunate that it's gotten to be this haze of bullets and ILSb is in the middle of it. But it's not going to get better until we all start to talk about it. Not pretend to talk about it, but actually have conversations. I commend IMSL on having creating a space for dialogue for people of color. This needs to happen more in more spaces. I'm willing to facilitate that. I'm not just going to say it needs to happen. I'm willing to step up and facilitate those conversations. It's not hard to find me. If we want to do it via like Google Chat, nobody has to pay for airfare. Everybody can be in their pajamas, be home, be comfortable, and not be so afraid of each other. Whatever it takes to make these conversations happen, it needs to happen. Just pretending that it's not necessary isn't working. Obviously, it's not working. And we really have to start addressing this. If you feel like it's not your conversation to have or you don't want to be involved, that's fine. But I'm hoping that more people will start to actually connect with each other and talk about things. I mean, we have to face the reality of how this our community is behaving. And those people who are in positions to make decisions for us all, it's not going to fly when you can say you can't compete, but we'll take your money, you can come to the party. That just came across wrong. At best, it came across wrong. You can't say to people, you're good enough to take care of my boots, but you're not man enough to stand on the stage beside me and run in this competition. You can't do that. You can't. You can't have it both ways. You either allow or you don't. And it's okay if you don't. I respect your right to say this is what we want. But don't act like you didn't know it was coming. You've had people working their asses off for you, getting their friends involved because they believed in your mission. They believed in what it was you're doing. And then to be told, you're not a man, basically, so you have to go away. Unless you want to, take care of our leathers. I know that's not what you said, but I can guarantee you that's what some people heard. That's what it feels like to be told that you're not man enough to be in this competition, but you're okay to take care of, my boots and leathers. It's not, it's unpleasant, to say the least. So these conversations need to happen. Those moments and conversations of, how do we word this, need to happen. Because the decisions are going to be made. I'm not in a position of authority on any sort of event at all. I can support it by getting my friends to go, advertising for it, any of that sort of stuff, presenting at events. That's how I can put my support behind it. But I don't have the opportunity to create an event, work with one. I probably do, but I don't want to. I don't want an event, and I understand. I've watched how these things go, and it's just not my deal. I understand you can't make everybody happy. There's so much cost involved. And everybody wants to be special. Nobody wants to just be the regular person at the event. Everyone wants to feel special, and it's hard to make an event for everyone feel special. But it's kind of your job. If you're going to have an event and you're going to invite people, they need to feel special. I need to feel special if you want my money, for sure. You can't just toss people aside, not without a serious explanation. Or a thorough, I won't say serious, a thorough. I got the impression after reading Jeffrey's post that he may have felt like he didn't have the opportunity to tell people what he really thought. I feel like you had that opportunity from the get-go. And maybe this might have been a little more calm. Yeah, people are still going to be upset, but it might have been received a little bit better with a bit more information. And maybe it wouldn't have. It's just my guessing. I don't know. I still consider myself a babe in the woods in this community, and I've been around for probably about 10 years or so. It's been interesting. I could have never predicted the things that have happened, and I'm incredibly pleased to be where I am. But also, I think by virtue of where I am, it's beholden upon me to step up and say, this isn't right. You can make your own decisions about your event, absolutely. But again, just the way it was handled was wrong. It was a bad idea to handle it the way it was handled. And I also wanted to, again, point out that it's never a good idea to be violent or threaten violence to people. That's not going to ever solve any of these conversations or these issues. I get being angry about them. I totally get that. It's just the angry doesn't help a conversation form. The angry doesn't make it any easier for people to relax. But the conversations have to start, and they need to be really deep ones. I'm not saying we all have to agree and it has to be a big love fest, but there needs to be more respect given, more care given to what we choose to do and how it can affect people. You can't, probably plan for like way out from the ripple, but looking at your communities, looking at the people who are around you, looking at the other people that come in close contact with your circle, and take those people into account when you're making those decisions and you're choosing your wording when you have to make those tough decisions. It's not fun. I don't envy any of you guys. It's been pretty crappy for all of you. But I think avoiding the topics or pushing them to other things, it's not going to solve it. It's not going to make it go away. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to cover while I was thinking about all of this. I was thinking that at one point that, although the contest may had previously been cisgendered men only, many trans people have been living in stealth forever, and I wouldn't be surprised if way back when somebody might have been actually trans that competed for this title when it was International Drummer. And while International Drummer had a mystique and allure, it is legendary. In that title, the type of people that were there, it was the player's title. And that atmosphere, it definitely has. I was nowhere near it, and I still know a bit about the lore of it, about the legacy of that title. But ILSb is not International Drummer. International Drummer is no more. To try to turn back the hands of time to recreate something that isn't here anymore is kind of crazy. What's the point? Where the world has changed and evolved, and I believe that in order to, if you're trying to make a profit off of your events, you'll have to evolve at some point. There has to be change. Forward, not backwards. Forward. International Drummer was what it was. ILSb was what it was before like 48 hours ago or something. And now it's something new and different, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be, if you're going to be able to get that feel back. Because there's a new crowd, there's new people, there's new taste and desires out there. The gear parties, I remember in 2008, like the gear parties were just getting started in some places around the country. Now they're everywhere. It's just the way it goes. I wish that this had not. I hope for the best resolution for everyone, as far as the individual situations go. I do feel strongly that it is important that we start having these conversations seriously, and we really start to take these things into account. This isn't going to die down. This wave of people voicing their opinions and being louder and louder with it every time, it's not going to stop. Not until those voices feel heard, and until you're willing to sit, and by you I mean those people who are running events, who are planning community, local events, national events, until you make sure that you have representation of those voices in some way, shape, or form when you're planning your events. You're going to keep running into things like this on a big scale. Little things are going to come up, but if you've covered your bases and you've had those conversations with people, you're like, this is what I did. We had those conversations. This other person will be like, yeah, we already talked about it, and this is what we decided. And it would come down a lot. It's about how you handle the spin of it, the PR of it, the be nice of it. We don't need to keep doing this. Yeah, you do need to be nice, especially if you're trying to get people's money. So even if you have to like dump them, try to be nice about it. Be informed, and be willing to listen. And that's important. Just be willing to listen. And for those people who want to be heard, Be willing to step back, take a breath, and come to the table calmly to have a discussion. And having those discussions, like actually listen to understand each other, not listening for debate or listening for the next point, one up, no derailing the conversations, just have an actual conversation with one another. Talk. It's hard. It's difficult because when we hear things about ourselves or our position that we want to defend, we want to defend it. But a conversation is just letting the other person talk for a minute and trying to understand what they're saying. And if you can't quite understand each other, get somebody else involved in the conversation, so that we can stop making it things stop blowing up so much, and we can have, I'd love to see we get to the point where, it was standard sort of operating procedure to call, your not like you friends to get input on different situations and see how you could potentially handle a situation. I think that's about it. I've rambled on. I think this is a pretty long video at this point. I'm not hard to find. I stand by the offer to help facilitate conversations in any way that I can, or come present a workshop. And I'm not asking that anyone house me or anything like that. So I'm genuine in that offer to do what I can to be a helping hand in this community. And it's a community I love. I'm kind of over it, kind of over the shenanigans, and I really think we need to